Hey guys, Trader DC here, coming at you with another video. Back in October of 2024, we had the craziest leak in the history of the Pokemon franchise, where basically a hacker who was going by the name of Game Freak Out hacked into Game Freak's servers, stealing a terabyte of information and leaking it online. And this leak is now known as the Terror Leak because, again, there was a terabyte of information stolen, and a lot leaked out there, from concept art from all the way back in Ruby and Sapphire, X and Y's concept art, some cancelled Pokemon designs that we never got to see, in addition to there being some leaked Mega Evolutions for Pokemon Legends ZA, and leaked information about Generation 10. Now, I haven't covered any of the concept art that was leaked. I think it's all really cool. I highly encourage you to go look for it out there online. I will not be covering it just because I feel like that's just asking for Game Freak and the Pokemon Company and Nintendo to come after my channel, because that's all copyright information and they do not want that to be out there. However, I have no problem talking about Generation 10, as everything is text-based. There's nothing that can be copyright struck by Game Freak or the Pokemon Company. What we got from the leak back in October were a few details regarding Generation 10. Nothing too crazy, but essentially there was a conversation between Game Freak and the staff who works on the anime, and they were discussing Pokemon Horizons and how they want to incorporate certain Mega Evolutions such as Zeraora and Zygarde into the anime, and they told them they have to stay away from a certain theme within the anime, and that is that they do not want there to be island hopping within Pokemon Horizon, because that would conflict with what they're doing for Generation 10, which is Codenamed Gaia. Essentially, they said that the idea of there being Pokemon living on different islands and adapting to their environment would kind of cannibalize what they're planning to do for Generation 10. The only other information we really got surrounding Gen 10 is that there were two builds for the game. There was a build for the Switch 2 and a build for the Switch 1. There's going to be two versions, version K and version N. We don't know what those stand for. We just know that, hey, there's going to be two versions like there are with every other Pokemon game. And that's pretty much all we knew for Generation 10. We know it's going to be an island hopping adventure in an archipelago. We know it's coming on the Switch 2 as well as the Switch 1, and there's going to be two versions of it, K and N, and that's literally all we knew. The community at the time started digging around, seeing, okay, what could possibly be an archipelago around the world that this region could be based on, and at the time the community landed on Greece being the inspiration for Generation 10. I was buying into this theory at the time. I thought it makes sense. It is a region that, for me personally, and I will talk about this a little bit later, for the past 12 years, Greece has been my #1 most wanted region for them to explore within the Pokemon world, and I will get into all of that a little bit later. But nevertheless, it seemed to make sense at the time. Now, since that happened, we had Central Leaks come out and confirm that apparently this game is going to be exclusive to the Switch 2, which is contradicting what we initially heard from the Terror Leak, that they were testing a Switch 1 version. But quite frankly, I think it being an exclusive on the Switch 2 makes a whole lot of sense. The Switch 1 can barely run Scarlet and Violet. It can barely run half of the games that are being put on it now. It makes sense for Gen 10 to be a Switch 2 exclusive. And furthermore, there has been a leaked image from Generation 10 that has been floating around online. It's supposedly real, of a Luminion underwater, and based on how that looks, it's something that I can't really picture being run on an original Switch from 2017. But the reason I'm making this video today, the newest piece of information we have, is the confirmation of where this region is going to take place for Generation 10, and we have a tweet here from Central from the other day saying, "Get ready for an oceanic adventure." It's true. We can confirm that Pokemon Generation 10 Codenamed Gaia will take place in the Cyclades. The game is planned to be released next year exclusively for the Nintendo Switch 2. And if you guys are like me and you see this map here and you see it says the Cyclades, this is a place that I am not familiar with within the world. I do not know where the Cyclades are. This is a place that I am not familiar with within the world. I do not know where the Cyclades are. I'm looking at the names of these different islands, however, and they sound very Greek to me. We have Kithnos, we have Seraphos, we have Komolos, Milos, Sifnos, etc., etc. If we look up Cyclades on Google, it turns out that this is the Greek island, so this is confirmation from what the community was speculating on back in October. Generation 10 is going to take place in Greece. And I cannot tell you how excited I am to be hearing this, because as I mentioned earlier in this video, for the past 12 years, years since Pokemon X and Y first came out, I remember discussing this with friends in school back in the day. We were saying, hey, what place around the world would you most want there to be a Pokemon region based on? And my answer was always Greece. I think Greece as a Pokemon region has so much potential just based on Greek mythology alone. Greek mythology as it is already serves as perfect inspiration for Pokemon legendaries. I mean, if we take a look at the Greek gods over here, all 12 of these could be legendary Pokemon. We can have a legendary based on Poseidon. We can have a legendary based on Zeus, based on Ares, Aphrodite, Hades, Artemis, Apollo, etc., etc. All 12 of these Greek gods could make awesome legendary Pokemon, and very easily we can tell the typing of these right now. Like, obviously Zeus would be an electric type, Poseidon would be a water type, Hades would probably be a dark type, Aphrodite would probably be a fairy type, etc., etc. Ares would be a fighting type, Athena would probably also be a fighting type as well, and I could go on and on and on. But I think a Pokemon region being based on Greece just could write itself. This could be the coolest Pokemon region we have ever gotten. There actually is a post as well from Ball Guy saying just rotate. This is a map of the Cyclades, which looks like it's from Apple Maps, and he's saying just rotate it around. So presumably the Pokemon region is going to be based on this map, but maybe rotated 180 degrees or something of the sorts, and that's what the Pokemon region is going to look like for Generation 10. Right off the bat, I am so excited to not only be seeing that it's Greece, but to also be seeing that we're going to have a more aquatic region. One of the bigger disappointments for me for Alola, and don't get me wrong, I love the Alola region, but one of the bigger disappointments is that we couldn't actually explore the water in between the different islands. We really were only able to explore the land of Alola. I remember back when the game was first announced on my original YouTube channel, DC Gamer, which I no longer upload to, I made a video saying how I was theorizing that Victory Road would be underwater, and it would be, you know, we're basically underwater traversing in between the islands to get to Victory Road in the Pokemon League. Obviously that wasn't the case, but that was one of the bigger disappointments to me for Alola, is the fact that it was a more aquatic region. It was a region with a lot of water since it was based off of islands and whatnot, but we really didn't get to explore those water routes. We really didn't get to explore the ocean, and it seems like in Generation 10 we are going to be exploring a lot of the ocean because we're going to be island hopping. I mean, it is possible that they just have us go on a boat from island to island to island and we don't actually get to explore, you know, what's in between these islands, but I would be absolutely stunned if this was the case, just because there is a lot they could do here with this map in the Pokemon world. One of my favorite things about the Hoenn region is the fact that we had so much water within this region to traverse. You could straight up go from this point over here. You could go down this route, it's all water, and you're at another point of the region. You could go here and go to Sootopolis City over here. You had to dive underwater to get there. That was so much fun, and it's such a unique take on the Pokemon world and a different experience, as opposed to every single region just being static land that we're going on, static land that we're traversing. So I'm presuming that in Generation 10 in Pokemon Gaia, we're probably going to see the dive mechanic return. I would be quite stunned if it didn't, just because of the amount of water we have here based on the Cyclades map. Furthermore, I'm wondering, one thing they mentioned in the transcript from the meeting between Game Freak and the anime team was that they were going to have Pokemon adapting to the different environments of the different islands and affecting it. I'm wondering if each island is going to have maybe its own legendary Pokemon. Maybe we do get all of the Greek gods and they're all basically the kings or queens, if you will, of each island, kind of like how we had the island guardians in Pokemon Sun and Moon. We had the Tapus, Tapu Koko, Tapu Lele, Tapu Bulu, and Tapu Fini, all guarding over each of the islands. Maybe they do something similar here with Generation 10, where each of the islands within this region that's based on Greece is taking a piece of Greece mythology, one of the Greek gods. Maybe they're guarding over each of the island. Maybe there's some conflict where, I don't know, Poseidon and Zeus go to war or something, kind of like what we saw in Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire with Kyogre and Groudon, or rather it was an Emerald, I should say, where they start fighting against each other and Rayquaza has to come stop them. This game has so many possibilities, and it really does draw a lot of similarities, in my mind at least, to the Hoenn region. Now, the other thing I want to discuss in this video, the last thing I want to touch on, is the fact that, as I mentioned before a couple times now, the islands are going to have different environments that are going to affect the Pokemon on each island. They're going to adapt in certain ways. This very very much so sounds like regional variants to me. So I'm wondering if regional variants are going to make a triumphant return in Pokemon Generation 10 in Gaia, because I know they were technically present for Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. However, we only really got Paldean Wooper and 3 Paldean Tauroses. We only got those 4 regional variants and nothing else. I'm wondering if each island will be home to their own distinctive regional variants. You know how the Galar region is home to the Galarian forms, the Hisui region is home to the Hisuian forms, the Paldea region is home to the Paldean forms, the Alola region is home to the Alolan forms. What if each island has basically their own forms? So for example, we have the Kithnos forms, we have the Seraphos forms, we have the Milos forms, we have the Sifnos forms, the Eos forms, etc, etc. I just think there's a lot of possibilities for this game, and there's a lot we still don't know too, because really all we know right now is that Gaia is going to be based on the Greek islands, which is the Cyclades over here. We know that it's coming to the Switch 2 next year. We know it's going to be an exclusive to that platform. There's going to be 2 versions, K and N, but we don't know anything else about this game. We don't know what the gimmick's going to be. We don't know any of the, evil teams. We know none of that. There has been a little bit of circulation. I've seen that there is a code name floating around out there for the gimmick and what it could potentially do, but I haven't seen anything too concrete on that for me to report on. But that's something definitely to keep an eye on as we're going forward, because this information is coming from somewhere. Obviously, there was a massive breach last year with the Terror leak within Game Freak, and I'm not exactly sure if all of this information is coming from the Terror leak, because that leaker said they were not going to put information forth regarding Generation 10 or Pokemon Legends ZA. So I'm not exactly sure where this leak is coming from that Centro is reporting on, and I know people don't really trust Centro, but this has been corroborated by other leakers saying that this is real. So this is something that is happening, it would seem, and it's just a matter of seeing what else happens from here. Am I going to be making more videos this year discussing more Generation 10 leaks, or are things going to quiet down and we're not going to find anything else about Generation 10 until it gets announced next year on Pokemon Day? We'll just have to wait and see on all of that. But what we do know today is that Pokemon Gaia Generation 10 versions K and version N, whatever their full names are coming to the Switch 2 in 2026, and they will be based on the Cyclades map, which is the Greek islands, and we will be exploring Greece in 2026 within the Pokemon world. Anyways, let me know down in the comment section below what you guys think about all of this. What do you guys think about the fact that Generation 10 is already leaking, and we haven't even gotten the official reveal for any new Mega Evolutions for Pokemon Legends ZA? It's kind of crazy to see the times we're living in here within the Pokemon community. What do you think about the fact that Greece is going to be our next Pokemon region? If you guys enjoyed this video, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to see more content like this from Trainer DC. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.